This is Only Horror. If you can hear me, then it's already too late. Let's begin. The first rule they gave me on the night shift was simple. If one of the warehouse cameras ever moves on its own, call your supervisor. Don't follow it. I thought Rick was joking when he told me that. The warehouse sat at the edge of an industrial park. During the day, it was just another gray building with loading docks and rows of shelving. After midnight, when the truck stopped and half the floor lights shut off, it felt bigger. Too big. I worked security there 3 nights a week. Most of it was easy. Sit in the office, watch 6 monitors, do 2 patrols before sunrise, and make sure nobody was trying dock doors or cutting through the lot. Rick trained me for 2 shifts. Right before he left on my second night alone, he pointed at monitor 4 and said, "If camera 12 changes position, call me first." Changes position? It won't, he said too quickly. Just don't touch it if it does. That would have made sense if he hadn't already told me camera 12 was fixed to a steel beam above center aisle. No motor, no pan, no tilt. Just an old fixed camera pointed down the longest stretch of the warehouse. I asked if it had fallen before. Rick looked at me for a second and said, "You'll know if it moves." For my first few weeks, nothing happened. Long quiet hours, bad coffee, the hum of the monitors. The night camera 12 moved. I was about a month into the job. It was just after 1:40 in the morning. I know that because I'd written 1:37 in the patrol log a few minutes earlier after checking the side gate. The warehouse was still. I was half watching the monitors when something changed in the corner of my eye. Monitor 4, camera 12. The image was different. Not by much, but enough. It normally pointed straight down center aisle. Now it was angled a little farther left, just enough to show the cross aisle at the back. I stared at it for 10 full seconds before I moved. My first thought was loose mount, vibration, something simple. Then I remembered the part he said too fast. Don't touch it if it does. I picked up the office phone and called him. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Then the image moved a second time. Not a jump. A slow shift. A few more inches left. The camera wasn't loose. It was tracking something. At the far end of the cross aisle, there was a shape where the aisle met the loading zone. A person, maybe. Hard to tell from that distance. Just a dark figure standing where there shouldn't have been anyone. I checked the other cameras. Loading bay, empty. Employee entrance, closed. North racks, nothing moving. Only camera 12 showed the figure. I should have called the police. But warehouse security trains you to think in smaller explanations first. An employee who came back for something. A driver sleeping in the wrong area. A trespasser who found a gap in the fence. I took the flashlight from my belt and stepped onto the warehouse floor. At night, they only left every 3rd overhead light on, so the aisles had bright sections broken up by long bands of dimness. I headed for center aisle with one hand on my radio. My steps sounded too loud. There was always some noise. The buzz of the lights, the click of cooling metal, the low hum from the charging stations. But once I left the office, it all sounded farther away than it should have. I reached the spot camera 12, usually covered, and shined my light toward the cross aisle. Nothing. No person. No movement. I swept the beam left, then right. Everything exactly where it should have been. Then my radio crackled. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped the flashlight. For a second, all I heard was static. Then a voice. Mine. Unit 3. I'm at the back aisle now. I froze. The radio hissed once more and went silent. There was no Unit 3. It was just me, overnight. I pressed transmit. Who's on this channel? Nothing answered. The flashlight beam had started shaking in my hand. I backed out of the aisle and went straight to the office. The first thing I did was check the monitors. Camera 12 had moved farther. Now it was pointed almost fully into the cross aisle. And there, in clear view this time, was someone walking across the frame. Same height as me, same build, dark security jacket. My flashlight clipped at the same shoulder. I stopped breathing for a second because I knew exactly what I was looking at. It was me, the same shaved head, same way of walking, slightly heavier on the right leg from an old knee injury. On the monitor, I watched myself walk slowly down the back cross aisle and out of frame. At the exact same time, I was standing in the office, staring at it. I called Rick again. This time he answered. Camera 12 moved, I said. There was a pause. Then he asked, "Where are you right now?" "In the office." "Stay there." His voice had changed completely. "What is this?" I asked. I just saw myself on the camera. Another pause, then quieter this time. "Lock the office door." I turned and did it immediately. Rick stayed on the line. "Listen to me. Do not do another patrol. Do not leave that office until daylight, no matter what you hear." What did I just see? He exhaled hard into the phone. "It follows the route." I didn't say anything. "If the camera moves, it means it found one," he said. "Sometimes it copies a person from the footage. Sometimes it just watches. If it starts walking your patrol, you stay put." Instead, I asked, "Is someone in the building?" "Yes," he said, "or something that looks right on camera." Then the line cut out. I looked back at the monitors. Then the hallway feed cycled onto monitor 5. A man in my uniform walked past the office door. Normal pace, head slightly down, right shoulder dipping with every third step, exactly like mine did. I knew the route he was taking because it was my route. I stood as still as I could and listened. A minute passed. Then I heard footsteps outside, slow, even. They stopped right beside the office door. The little window in that door had a metal blind over most of it. There was a narrow gap at the bottom where the blind never sat flush. I told myself not to look. Then I looked anyway. All I could see at first were boots. Black work boots. Mine. Then the figure crouched. Slowly. Like it understood exactly where the gap was. A single eye appeared in the opening. It wasn't my eye. It was too dark, too still, with no reflection in it at all. I stumbled backward and hit the desk hard enough to rattle the keyboard. Whoever it was stayed outside for maybe 10 more seconds. Then I heard it walk away. At some point, the radios on the charging rack in the hallway all clicked on at once. Then, Through the hiss, my own voice said, "I'm by the office. Open up." It repeated itself, then again, softer. "I know you're in there." I called 911, whispered the address, and told them someone was inside the warehouse and I was locked in the security office. The dispatcher stayed on with me until officers arrived. While we waited, camera 12 moved one last time. It tilted slowly back toward center aisle, like it was losing interest. 2 police officers cleared the building at 3:08. They found no one. No broken door, no cut fence, no sign of anyone on the floor. I asked if they'd checked the hallway camera near the office. They said the feed between 2:11 and 2:46 had corrupted, just static. Rick arrived 10 minutes later, looking more tired than scared. I asked him how long it had been happening. "Long enough," he said. "What is it?" He shook his head. "I don't know." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried to." He looked up at the monitors. "Nobody stays if you tell them everything." I grabbed the patrol log from the desk and threw it in front of him. "If you knew something in here copies people, why am I still walking rounds alone?" Rick didn't answer right away. He just stared at the logbook. Then he flipped it open to the page for that night. There were 3 entries in my handwriting. 10:48 p.m. perimeter secure. 1:37 a.m. side gate checked. 2:24 a.m. back aisle clear. I felt the blood drain from my face. I had written the first 2, but I had never written 2:24, and I knew that because after 1:37, I never took the log off the desk again. Rick tapped the last line with one finger. "That's why," he said quietly. "It always finishes the patrol." I quit the next morning. A week later, Rick called me. He told me the company had replaced camera 12 and changed patrol procedures. Then right before hanging up, he said there was one more thing I should know. The footage from camera 12 had been recovered. I asked what it showed. Rick didn't answer right away. Then he said, "You never made it back to the office." I frowned. "What are you talking about? I was in there all night." Another pause. Then he said, "On the footage, you don't turn around." My chest tightened. "What?" "At 2:12, you're on the floor," he said, "walking the back aisle." I didn't say anything. "You stop," Rick continued. "You look straight up at camera 12. I could feel my grip tightening on the phone. Then you smile." A cold feeling spread through my stomach. "And then?" I asked. Rick's voice dropped. "You start walking toward the office." I didn't respond, because I already knew what he was about to say. "When the office door opens on camera," he said, "you're not the one who walks in." The line went quiet. I don't remember hanging up. I just remember standing there, trying to replay that night in my head, trying to figure out exactly when. I stopped being the one on the floor. I don't like security cameras anymore. And every once in a while, when I catch my reflection in a dark screen, I don't look away right away, because there's always this feeling that if I move too soon, it won't. If you enjoyed tonight's story, drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from. And if you want more horror like this, make sure you're subscribed. New stories are coming soon. Until next time, keep the lights on.